Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Today, we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. What a week is really the best way to say it. So many things going on between the protests and the riots that are now just not only spreading through the United States, but also the world, including good economic data. Brazil's getting hit with the coronavirus. So we have a lot to go through. If you guys like the videos, don't forget to leave a like there in the video. It's great for the algorithm, so make sure you smash the like button. And if you have any questions, just leave them with a hashtag #AskMarcello. I'll be happy to go ahead and pull those for you to be able to continue to answer those questions for you. I love doing that. Monday, the futures ended up lower, but it did close higher after Trump's directive on Friday talked about eliminating the special treatment for Hong Kong after China is trying to pass the securities law on the property, or on the island, I should say. Remember that they made an agreement between the UK and China that there would be two systems under one entity, right? So Hong Kong was turned back to China from the UK, but they only did that assuming certain laws and certain agreements, meaning that they were going to leave Hong Kong hands off because, China wants to do things a certain way, and the UK wanted to make sure that the people of Hong Kong, I should say, wanted to be treated differently than what they're treated on the mainland. So now they're saying that they should eliminate those special treatments for Hong Kong due to the fact that now, if they're going to pass the law, which it looks like, Hong Kong is going to be part of China and the system of China as well. Tuesday, stocks closed higher. They actually reached 3-month highs. Investors were reassured by the fact that we're going to have the China trade agreement, the United States and China that they agreed on, which is phase 1, is going to hold firm. There's also hopes of a rebound from the coronavirus-led economic slump. So now there's some good economic data as well that's starting to come out. And besides the situation that's going on in the world and the bad economic data that we had before, the S&P 500 now is at its highest point since the last 3 months. NASDAQ surged to a record high, and the Dow also had a good days this week as well. Wednesday, again, stocks closed at 3-month highs. Thursday, we had the expectation of the unemployment data to reach 20% in May. However, stocks surged due to the fact that we actually had great economic data in regards to the employment report. Stocks surged on Friday. The NASDAQ hit a record high. It's now 9.38% positive for the year. And now there's a lot more hopeful environment out there with the good economic news that maybe we're starting to come out of the coronavirus recession, coronavirus crisis, whatever you guys want to call it. The non-farm payrolls rose to 2.5 million, indicating a speedier economic recovery. For the week, the Dow went up 6.8%. It's still down 5% for the year. The S&P 500 is up 4.91%, even though it's down 1.14% for the year. The NASDAQ for the week was up 3.41%, new record high. Overseas market news, China's economic data, if you can trust it, it looks like they're recovering from the worst part of the pandemic, even though the rest of Asia doesn't seem like they're doing as well in terms of a recovery. The European markets surged this week. We had Paris, Germany, the Euro Stoxx, Spain, and Italy all above 10%. Latin American markets, the biggest winner overall for the week was the Merval in Argentina, positive 19.31%. That's a huge number, even for Argentina. The emerging economies that aren't, the United States or Europe or Australia generally have more swings. So even for them, being an emerging economy, which generally has more volatility, which is range and movement, that's still a huge number for them. Africa and the Middle East are mixed. South Africa was up 8.39%, the biggest winner of the week. And Asia, the biggest winner was the Philippines at 10.71% for the week. Bitcoin, even though we did have the halving which is to reduce the future supply of Bitcoins. A lot of analysts were saying that we should see a surge. It's actually still below 10,000. Bitcoin was overall higher for the week, even though we didn't have a lot of movement from the beginning of the week. It was up 0.50%, 0.50, and it went to about 9,587.89 cents or so. In finance and banking news, the EU securities laws are now starting to get eased. That didn't make sense grammatically. I'll repeat that. The EU is starting to ease securities laws that can start to allow a lot of firms to be able to be recapitalized to try to help with the recovery. As you guys know, the main difference between the European market and the American market is that in the US we have a lot less regulations, we have a lot less taxes, so that obviously helps with the money going into our pocket instead of the government's pocket, because we don't know what the government's going to do with it, right? So they want to confine the cost and charges for disclosures for retail investors. They want to ease the requirement of conversations being recorded with investors, and they also want to reduce the suitability assessment for investment decisions. Global banks are starting to become bearish on the yuan in China, as some are expecting record lows in the coming weeks, which could be a threat to financial markets worldwide. There's growing tensions with China as well, with the situation with Hong Kong, the autonomy, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the coronavirus response, and also the delivery of the Phase 1 trade deal, as now there's a little bit of tension now in regards of whether they're going to comply with that or not, even though they did state that they were. Commodities, U.S. crude is up 11.43% for the week to $39.55, even though it's still down 36.33% for the year. International crude, which is called Brent, was down 11.78% at $42.30. It's still down over 36% for the year. Oil did, however, gain for the 6th week overall. The Brent, which is the international crude, went up to $40. Remember that we had that huge fiasco where oil went negative, and this is due to the expectations that OPEC plus Russia was going to agree to a cut in production, which they did agree to today. Then I'm recording the video on Saturday to continue the extension of the cuts. Now they're in a difficult situation because they don't want the oil to get too high, because then the U.S. production, the expensive shale production, will explode, but they don't want to get too low because then it's going to affect their finances. Copper surges on Friday to the highest in 13 weeks on the unexpected increase in employment in May, providing a revival for the global economic activity. It's up 6% for the week, the biggest gain since September of 2018. And precious metals for the week had a down week. Gold was down 2.65% at $1,685, where silver was down 2.57% at about $17.50. Political news. A little bit of contention between the Juan Guaido, which is the opposition leader in Venezuela. They're saying that they're the current president, where Venezuela is saying that the Maduro isn't president. Juan Guaido is saying that he took refuge in some of the diplomatic sites, France's diplomatic sites, even though France is saying that he did no such thing. And former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden is now the official Democratic presidential nominee, looking forward to a contentious and bitter general election fight with current President Trump in November. And again, just want to remind you guys, I always try not to be political on these videos because I think we've had enough of that in the news. So whether you're right, left, black, white, whether you love Obama, hate Trump, love Trump, hate Obama, doesn't matter. I try to just stick to the facts so you guys can learn a little bit more about the economic news and how to be able to put all these things together. I've been in the markets now for almost 20 years. So I love to be able to do these videos for you guys. That's why you should smash the like button. Hit the like button if you like it, since I've been doing it for free. U.S. Congressional Budget Office is warning in a new analysis that most of the next decade, it's going to take that amount of time to be able to recover from the pandemic. By cumulative years, it may take up to 10 years, or about 3% of GDP that we took a hit of due to the pandemic. And without counting for inflation, we could have taken a hit of about $15.7 trillion, or about 5.3% of GDP. The U.S. ADP expected job loss was 9 million for the month of April. The actual figure came in at just 2.7%. That's why the markets went crazy on Friday with a lot of news as well. Trump did a press event talking about the numbers as well. And again, it could indicate that we're starting to get out of the situation of the slump from the self-imposed coronavirus quarantines. Unexpected turn of events on Friday. The U.S. non-farm payrolls. If you guys don't know what that means, we have payrolls, the salaries of everybody of what they receive. Non-farm payrolls means all the payrolls, all the salaries that are not on farm, since that's mostly seasonal work. So that actually rose by 2.509 jobs in May after a record 20.7 million loss in April. And the forecast was that we were going to lose 8 million jobs. So essentially, we were expecting it to be a horrible number, but we actually got a positive number, which is great. Canada's unexpected gain of jobs as well. In May, they had 289,000, just over 289,000 jobs as the jobless rate hit 13.7%, even though they were expecting it to hit 15,000 and a loss of 500,000 jobs. So it's not only the U.S. economy now that was expecting worse numbers that got better numbers, it's Canada as well. And Canada, even though they have just around 30 million people in population, they're still one of the largest economies in the world. Australia's near 29 recession-free economic growth has actually stopped. They just issued the quarter one numbers, which was a negative 0.3% of GDP. Quarter two numbers are definitely going to be worse due to the fact that they had the quarantine as well. And they're pumping about 13.3% of their GDP, or 180 billion US dollars, into the economy to support workers, businesses, and also households. And they're looking to do a second round of fiscal stimulus for residential construction as well. German Economic Ministry is saying that the industrial goods for April fell 25.8%. It's the biggest drop since they started keeping the numbers in 1991, but they're expecting now that that's going to be the low point of Europe's largest economy, and we should see a rebound from here. And Kenya, reported by the IMF, is that they are now the fourth largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. If you guys don't know what that means, this is Africa. We have the Sahara Desert up on the top here. Everything under the desert is sub-Saharan Africa. So now they're just behind South Africa and Nigeria. Nigeria actually is the biggest. So it doesn't include countries like Egypt or Morocco, for example. And they overtook Angola due to the fact that Angola, the production of oil has been going down over the years, and Kenya's continuing to grow over the years as well. In corporate news, Google is being sued by the accusation that they're still tracking the information and collecting the information of people in incognito mode, which is supposed to be private and non-trackable. They're saying they want to be able to get $5 billion in damages due to the fact that they're not supposed to be tracked because it's supposed to be private incognito. So all of you guys watching porn, you better be careful now because Google's tracking you. Don't be surprised if you see that billboard on the street. No, just kidding. Other than that, French luxury goods makers LVMH was going to do a takeover of Tiffany of about $16.2 billion. And now the big merger is in question due to the economic calamity and also the protesting and the riots that we've had, the social unrest over the last week and a half. I believe it's been 2 weeks now, right? Or a week and a half, since of the unfortunate situation of what happened to George Floyd. In the trade news, Turkey's Trade Minister Rusar Pekkan announcing that they're going to reopen the borders with Iraq and Iran that they closed due to help prevent the spread of the situation with the coronavirus. And President Trump is now saying that he views the phase one trade deal between the U.S. and China differently in the wake of the coronavirus. He says that he says that getting along with China would be a good thing, but I don't know if it's going to happen, says Trump. EU and the UK negotiators make very little progress in the latest rounds of Brexit free trade agreements talks, even though that they have just weeks left to be able to have an agreement, to be able to reach an actual deal. And technology, 19 hours after SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket lifted on Saturday, they did arrive to the International Space Station without a problem. It's a huge success as it was the first private spacecraft to orbit the Earth and take people into space. And now they're going to start taking astronauts every few months. Boeing, which was SpaceX competitor, saying that it marks a new era for human spaceflight. A cable system, a new underwater sea cable with a consortium of companies, including those from China and also Facebook, are going to invest almost 23,000 miles for a new undersea cable that's going to go around Africa and the Middle East to be able to triple. So it's going to increase the network capacity of the internet system there in the Middle East and Africa, which is one of the fastest growing regions in the world. In investment news, Hong Kong had its first $1 billion listing in over 6 months from a Chinese internet firm called NetEase. It's a second listing that could raise $2.8 billion. And now the amount of billion-dollar listings in Hong Kong is not as fast as it used to be, or as much, I should say, as it used to be. It's falling behind New York and mainland China. Obviously, you can see that it's not as attractive anymore. U.S. says that new restrictions on 33 Chinese firms and institutions on an economic blacklist announcing in May is going to begin on Friday, as they're stating that they're accusing them of helping the human rights abuses in against the Muslim Uyghur in Xinjiang, as they're the Muslim minority, which has been reported that they haven't been treated very well. And the Colombian government, my dear Colombia, they're going to have a collapse in revenue of $6.6 billion in 2020 due to the collapse of oil and also the situation with the coronavirus. You know, the economy literally came to a grinding halt. I did a video actually about why right now is one of the best opportunities to invest, how you can make a fortune investing in real estate in Colombia right now due to the exchange in the dollar. So if you guys want to see that video, I'll upload it on the Day Trading Academy site as well. And international events, U.S. protesters and rioters continued this week. They've become increasingly violent and destructive, destroying a lot of businesses, and also not only businesses, but, you know, there's been a lot of clashes, I should say, between the police and also the protesters as well. A dozen states has already brought in the National Guard to be able to restore order. Wednesday, the Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, stated that he's not going to walk away from Hong Kong if China does impose the new security law. They say that it's going to violate the agreement under the 1984 Accord after they handed back control of the island in 1997. India and Australia stepped up their bilateral relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership. India already has this agreement with a few countries where the military are going to start being more closely integrated, I should say, even though they're still independent, right? And they're saying that they're going to have mutual logistics reports in addition to other things due to the Chinese aggression in the region. Brazil on Friday had a record number of corona deaths, putting past the total number of Italy. There's a media there is against the Bolsonaro since he's not part of the same party. On Thursday, Brazil's health ministry reported that the cases went above 600,000 with about 1,437 deaths registered within 24 hours. On Monday, in the interesting facts, they had a lot of employees that did a virtual walkout on the employees of Facebook due to the fact that they didn't agree with Zuckerberg's decisions to not take actions against controversial posts from President Trump. So they took the day off, and he also states that he wasn't going to do anything against those companies, against those employers that walked out on the job. Tuesday, hundreds of Italian demonstrators gathered in Piazza del Popolo in Rome to try to protest what they say are the restrictions that they consider a scam in regards to the situation of the pandemic. There's been a powerful landslide in the Arctic portion of Norway, which took 8 houses and quite a bit of parcels of land. This is an amazing video. Hopefully they'll put it up there for me. You can see literally the side of an entire community. It looks like just literally going into the sea. Just reminds us how fragile it is, and Mother Nature is still king. Trump stated on Friday that Warren Buffett made a mistake selling the airline company after they surged this month, I should say.
Warren Buffett sold airlines a little while ago. He's been right his whole life, but sometimes even somebody like Warren Buffett, I have a lot of respect for him, they make mistakes. They should have kept the airline stocks because
he sold $6 billion worth of airline stock, Berkshire Hathaway. Trump is threatening to impose tariffs on EU cars after he's stating that they should take off the tariffs that they have on U.S. lobster. That's one of the things, for example, that they don't talk about a lot, right? Where Trump is using, he's saying that there's going to put tariffs on other products if they don't take off the tariffs that they have on certain products. And even China, for example, has the tariffs as well. And U.S. billionaires have become $565 billion richer since March 18th, since Institute of Policy Studies. Jeff Bezos alone is now $36.2 billion richer than the down part that we had in March due to the coronavirus. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to smash that like button for me, and we'll see you next week.